We live in the most connected time in human history. You can video call your cousin in Australia, send voice messages to friends while walking, and get instant feedback on your dinner via Instagram. And yet, loneliness is everywhere. Studies from Harvard and the World Health Organization have shown that despite our hyper-connected digital lives, feelings of isolation are rising across all age groups. In fact, a 2023 Gallup survey found that nearly 1 in 4 adults worldwide feel very or fairly lonely on a regular basis. How is that possible when we're always just a tap away from a conversation? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Connection is not the same as closeness. We're flooded with notifications, messages, and updates, but not all of it nourishes us. Digital interaction often lacks the emotional texture that real relationships require. Imagine sitting in a cafe with a close friend. No phones, just eye contact, laughter, pauses. Now compare that to a group chat with 16 people talking about 14 different things. Which of those actually made you feel seen? The rise of digital life has brought amazing tools, but it's also introduced relationship substitutes that trick our brains into feeling connected without the emotional depth. Psychologists call this social snacking. Quick interactions like likes, emojis, and casual comments that give a fleeting sense of connection without true intimacy. They satisfy the hunger briefly, but not deeply. Meanwhile, our brains haven't evolved at the same pace. We're still wired for face-to-face interaction, for the little cues, tone, micro-expressions, pauses, the feeling of being listened to without distraction. These are what activate oxytocin, the bonding hormone. And without them, relationships can feel strangely hollow, even if we're in constant digital contact. Think about your own life. When was the last time someone asked you how you really were and waited in silence for the real answer? When was the last time you gave that gift to someone else? Many of us are unintentionally drifting toward performative connection, showing up in chats, reacting to stories, sending a quick ha-ha or a heart emoji because it feels polite. But deep down, we're starving for something more. Loneliness doesn't mean having nobody around. It means feeling emotionally invisible, unheard, unknown, unheld. And in the digital age, it's easier than ever to fall into that invisible space, even when surrounded by people online. But it doesn't have to stay that way. This episode is about reversing that drift, about slowing down, showing up, and learning how to build relationships that actually matter. Because your connections are not just part of life. They shape your mental health, physical well-being, and even how long you live. The long-running Harvard study of adult development, which followed participants for over 80 years, came to a striking conclusion. The quality of your relationships is the single greatest predictor of lifelong happiness and health. Not income, not career success, not fame or IQ, but whether you have people you can truly count on. So if you've been feeling emotionally hungry, even while surrounded by messages and notifications, you're not broken. You're human. Maybe the answer isn't more messages, but better moments. Moments that are real, present, and shared. Maybe that's where we should start. Because we all crave connection. But in a world full of group chats and status updates, how we connect has changed. And not always for the better. Let's start with something surprising. The brain can't tell the difference between social rejection in person and social rejection online. In fact, fMRI scans, short for functional magnetic resonance imaging, show that when someone feels ignored, whether in a conversation or when their message is left on read, the same brain regions light up as when we experience physical pain. That's how deeply wired we are for belonging. And yet, we now live in a culture of constant comparison. We scroll through curated moments, smiling faces, vacation sunsets, perfectly filtered lives, and think we're the only ones who feel left out. But the truth is, almost everyone feels it. The more time we spend consuming others' highlight reels, the less we invest in our own real-life relationships. The problem isn't technology itself, it's how we use it. Digital tools are like fire. They can warm us or burn us, depending on how we hold them. Used mindfully, they can deepen bonds across distance. Used mindlessly, they can hollow them out. So how do we use technology without losing connection? First, understand your social bandwidth. Psychologist Robin Dunbar found that humans are naturally wired to maintain about 150 meaningful social connections. Within that, there's a core circle of 5 close relationships, then layers beyond that, up to casual acquaintances. But here's the twist: the illusion of unlimited connection. Hundreds or thousands of online friends spreads us too thin. We end up investing less in the people who actually matter. That's why intention beats quantity. A 5-minute voice message to a close friend can mean more than 100 likes on a story. A walk without phones can repair more trust than 1,000 texts. The Harvard Business Review calls this high-intimacy micro-interactions, tiny moments of real attention that compound over time into deeper bonds. And while that sounds simple, it's not easy. Why? Because our digital world trains us for immediacy, fast replies, instant gratification, swipeable attention. But meaningful relationships require slowness. They grow through shared silence, through unresolved moments, through staying present even when there's nothing to gain. That's why small rituals, like weekly calls, Sunday dinners, handwritten notes, still hold such power. They create emotional memory, and emotional memory creates trust. Here's the good news. Your brain still remembers how to connect. Even if you've drifted, even if you've been too busy, too distracted, too tired. You don't need a perfect plan. You need to start small. Reach out to one person today. Not with a like, not with a "how are you" text, but with presence. Ask a better question. Listen without multitasking. Tell someone what they mean to you, without waiting for a birthday or crisis to say it. Because real relationships are built one small moment at a time. And every time you choose presence over performance, you reclaim a piece of what the digital age tries to take from you. You don't need more followers. You need more connection. And that leads us to the final part of this story. Not just how to reconnect with others, but how to reconnect with yourself. The most important relationship you'll ever have is the one you have with yourself. And in the digital age, even that connection is under threat. Because before we lose touch with others, we often lose touch with ourselves. We scroll not because we're curious, but because we're avoiding something. We reply instantly to notifications, but ignore the quiet signals of our own body and mind. In a world where everyone is trying to be seen, it's easy to forget how to see yourself. So how do you rebuild that inner connection? It starts with intentional solitude. Not loneliness, Not isolation, but solitude. The kind where you sit with your own thoughts without distraction. Where you ask, what do I actually feel right now? What do I need? Who do I miss? Not for performance, not for sharing, just for clarity. Neuroscience confirms it. When we allow our mind to wander in silence, the brain's default mode network activates, linked to self-reflection, empathy, and long-term meaning. This is the space where deeper insights arise, where emotional processing happens, where you remember who you are beneath the noise. But solitude is just one side. The other is vulnerability. You can't build meaningful relationships if you're always performing. People can't connect with the mask. They can only connect with you. It's okay to say, I feel overwhelmed. I don't have it all figured out. I miss how things used to be. Because chances are, they feel it too. And when one person dares to be real, it opens the door for others to do the same. That's how trust grows. Not from perfection, but from honesty. In fact, studies show that people who share their struggles authentically are more trusted, not less. Vulnerability, when done with intention, strengthens bonds. So if you want deeper relationships, start here. Stop curating, start connecting. Let go of the highlight reel and step into the human reel. And finally, make space. The truth is, we can't have meaningful connection with everyone. Not every friendship will last. Not every text deserves a reply. Not every connection is meant to stay. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself and others is to let go. Because when you clear space from the superficial, you make room for what's real. The friend who sits in silence when words fail. The partner who sees your flaws and stays anyway. The stranger who feels like home after one honest conversation. In the end, building meaningful relationships isn't about following more people. It's about following your values. It's not about being more available. It's about being more present. And it's not about having a perfect network. It's about creating a few sacred connections that remind you who you are and who you want to be. So here's your quiet reminder. Put the phone down. Close the tab. Look someone in the eye. Ask something real. Say something kind. And listen, not just with your ears, but with your heart. Because in this noisy digital world, the rarest thing you can offer is your undivided attention. And it might just be the beginning of something truly meaningful.